Today I would like to share with you 3 stories of 3 amazing women who you've probably never heard of before. My first story is about a girl named Rose, who was born in northern Uganda in 1978. Rose went to a school and listened to her teachers every day in the area of Acholi. And like the other children in her area, she would listen to fireside stories about the ogre Obibi, who would come and take children away if they didn't listen to their parents. But it wasn't Obibi that took Rose away. When she was 18 years old, the Lord's Resistance Army came to her school and abducted 139 children. An Italian nun who was working at the school at the time chased the rebels into the bush and tried to rescue these children. She managed to secure the release of 109 children, but Rose was not one of them. Instead, she was held in captivity for 10 years as a sexual slave in northern Uganda and in Sudan. And she was forced to become one of the many wives of a man who was old enough to be her grandfather. During this time, she gave birth to 2 children. In 2007, she managed to escape with her son and her daughter, and she began the long trek home on foot. They were 3 days away from freedom when they came under attack by a government helicopter. Her 3-year-old son's head was blown off in the attack. They claimed he was a rebel. Like many surviving returnees, Rose has turned to education in order to try to move forward with her life. But she also draws upon the past in order to try to make a difference. She now writes about her experience in the bush and has contributed to efforts to amplify the voices of women affected like her, and to address impunity for crimes such as sexual slaves, forced marriage, and other crimes. She recently attended a conference in Sierra Leone on this topic, and where she was working alongside historians, lawyers, scholars, and other survivors in order to develop better legal frameworks to prosecute sexual slavery, forced marriage, and other violations, issues which impact on women in Sierra Leone, Liberia, the Congo, and in many other places. We need to hear voices such as hers in decisions about security, accountability, protection, and most of all, prevention. My second story is about a woman named Ori Okello, who is a lawyer and blogger from Kenya. In 2003, when parliamentarians gave themselves a big raise, Ori could no longer sit by and accept the corruption that had come to plague her country. She and a friend known mysteriously as M decided to create a website called Mzalando. On the site, they aimed to track all the bills, legislation, and people that passed through Kenya's parliament. This was no easy task, since they could not bring computers, recording devices, or even notebooks in to take notes about what was happening. She and M eventually enlisted the assistance of bloggers, journalists, and other Kenyans in order to document what was happening, and to better help promote accountability. In 2007, violence erupted in Kenya following the elections that most believed were stolen. Around 1,300 people were killed and perhaps another 500,000 were displaced. Ori was unable to keep up with the flow of information that was coming into her website, so she enlisted the help of several local programmers who, over the course of a weekend, helped her to develop a software that has come to be known as Ushahidi, meaning witness. Ushahidi is based on a simple idea that we actually heard about before, that nobody knows everything, but everybody knows something. During the 60 days of violence that followed, over 45,000 people used SMS text messaging, email, and the internet to report incidents and crimes that they were witnessing in real time, and to see how and where violence was spreading. This information ultimately helped in surprising ways, including in emergency planning, security response, and in other ways. It arguably contains one of the most complete records of the events that took place during the crisis. Kenya's rival parties eventually agreed to a power-sharing agreement in 2008, and later that year, under pressure from Ori and other activists, the parliament finally agreed to televise proceedings. But Ori's influence and Ushahidi's influence does not end there. In the last 3 years, Ushahidi has been transformed into an open source platform that has been repurposed for a broad array of reasons, including to monitor events such as to save survivors from the earthquakes in Haiti and in Chile, to report sexual harassment in Egypt, to monitor the elections in India, to observe the independence referendum in Sudan, and to track piracy activity in Somalia. The New York Times even suggested that it could be used to gather intelligence on the whereabouts of Osama bin Laden. That may be a bit of a stretch, but it has undoubtedly revolutionized the way we think about and respond to crisis planning, and its impact on accountability is undeniable. We need to hear those voices. My final story is about two other girls who helped to achieve the seemingly impossible. Their names are Isra Abdel Fattah and Asma Mahfouz. And this part of their story begins in March 2008, when they volunteered to support striking workers in the town in the north of their country, planned for the 6th of April. These protests were in response to the rising food prices and stagnating wages that were making it impossible for families to support their children. To spread the word about the protest and to build support for the strike, Isra created a website, a Facebook group, and sent it out to the people that she knew. Much to their surprise, their membership grew to 76,000 members in the weeks and months that followed, mostly made up of youth who had never before been involved in politics. They used social media to share news, warn protesters about police activities, organize protection, and draw attention to their campaign. Following the strikes, they decided to call themselves the April 6th Youth Movement. They aimed to get other people, and especially youth, involved in matters such as government corruption, freedom of speech, and economic stagnation. Asma led campaigns on behalf of jailed activists, spoke to communities about the importance of civic engagement and participation, and helped to coordinate more strikes, including some that turned deadly. For these efforts, she and her family faced constant harassment from authorities who repeatedly arrested her and tried to shut down their website. For some time, the state security did manage to slow the group's momentum, but this did not stop Asma. On the 18th of January 2011, 4 days after Tunisians brought down their government, Asma posted a video on YouTube that will surely go down as one of the key events that helped to mobilize Egypt's revolution. Breaking from anonymous calls in the past by other video activists, she courageously stated her name and her phone number and told citizens and security officials alike where they could find her on January 25th. Actions which could have gotten her jailed, if not killed. She called upon Egyptians from all walks of life to join her and protect her from those who would seek to stop her from protesting. Her video quickly went viral and was imitated by youth around the country. The following are some of the passages from her vlog. If we still have honor and want to live in dignity in this land, we have to demand our fundamental rights and human freedoms. This entire government is corrupt, a corrupt president and a corrupt security force. These 4 men who set themselves on fire were not afraid of death, but they were afraid of our security forces. Can you imagine that? Whoever says women shouldn't protest because they will be beaten, let him have some honor and come and join me on January 25th and protect me. Whoever says it will not be worth it because there will only be a handful of people, I want to tell him that you are the reason behind this. Sitting at home and following us on the news or on Facebook leads to our humiliation, to my own humiliation. Instead of setting ourselves on fire, let us do something. It will make a big difference. Never say there is no hope. There is only hope if you say there is no hope. Don't be afraid of the government. Fear none but God. God says he will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. Apart from Asma, women and girls played prominent roles in the front lines of Egypt's largely peaceful revolution, which helped to end the 30-year rule of President Hosni Mubarak. Yet when it came time for Egypt's High Council to convene a panel of 27 respected intellectuals to discuss Egypt's future, only 1 woman was invited to participate. And when a committee was formed several days later to amend Egypt's constitution, not one woman was invited to join. Instead, the High Council echoed an all too familiar refrain: this is not the time to talk about women. Egyptian women have quickly responded to this by drawing attention to these gaps and they show no signs of letting pass this moment to change their situation. And happily, history is on their side. Time and again, when women have fought for the battles for the freedom of their day, they have then moved on to advocate for their own rights. It may now be impossible to stop these awakened women from fighting for their freedom. These are the stories of some of the incredible women around the world who live in oppressive and insecure places that are to some degree a byproduct of insecurity and inequality. They have not just survived, they have risen to the challenge to find peaceful ways to promote justice, accountability, and change. We need to hear their voices more. We also need to hear women's voices during policy-making processes, and especially in areas like peace negotiations, constitutional reviews, and security planning, where women are often excluded. Why? Because peacekeepers might know the most effective ways to secure patrols, but without talking to Eastern Congolese women that they are trying to protect, how would they know that the most vulnerable times are in the morning when they're collecting water and collecting firewood? Liberian police might have all the latest training in law enforcement, but without Africa's first female head of state, who invited the first ever all-female police unit to Liberia with the UN, we might not know that such units help to increase trust among civilians in post-conflict environments, and that their presence can lead to an increase in reporting of sexual crimes, to higher levels of prosecution, to lowering of impunity. And we also might not know that having these role models would help to triple the enrollment of Liberian women in the domestic police forces. Yet this is not about making conflicts safe for women. It's about ending existing conflicts and preventing new conflicts from starting. It's about promoting democracy and human rights for all. To do this, we need women's voices in decision-making processes at all levels, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because countries where women participate meaningfully also tend to be more peaceful, more prosperous, and more tolerant. As Hillary Clinton recently said, "Give women equal rights and entire nations are more stable and secure. Deny women equal rights and the instability of nations is almost certain." Canada should play a role in bringing forward these voices. To do that, we need clear vision, real political will, appropriate resources, and meaningful participation, including from our very rich diaspora. We as individuals also have a role to play in holding our MPs to account for our government's foreign policy priorities, in sharing these voices with others, and in finding innovative ways to support such women, both at home and abroad. And just think, if these women can make such an important difference in their societies, imagine how much we can accomplish here. Tonight I leave you with one final thought. What will be your story? Thank you.